Chapter 2.1 A Tin Can in a Dream. A few days later, Retta slammed the metal door wide open and screamed out, "Tobias! There's no toilet paper!" She sat on the cold metal toilet seat with her legs crossed, while Tobias was in the main quarters. His jacket was thrown on the back of his chair. He sat in his yellowing white tank top, and he reclined as he read from a monitor. "Yeah, we're out. Found a magazine or something." Alpha's paws pitter-pattered towards the open door, and she poked one eye in. Red's pants were around her ankles, and she felt weird having Alpha watch her. She pointed a toe, slowly shut the door, and whispered, "Sorry, girl," as Alpha backed up, and Retta yelled to Tobias, "I'm not getting out of here until you get me some toilet paper." "Just use your hand and wash it." "You don't even have soap left." "The dish soap too?" "Two? That's all you had." "Huh. Guess we'll pick some up." Alpha tread away. Her paws echoed down the hall, stopped, then twisted back and returned. Alpha pushed the door open, poked her wet, black nose in, and had a magazine wedged between her teeth. She kept her head down, dropped the magazine at Retta's feet, and wagged her tail. It made Red smile. She covered her crotch, pet Alpha's snout, and thanked her. The magazine made for a poor toilet paper substitute, but substitutions were the norm here. Used paper plates were flipped to their clean side, plastic utensils were revered like cutlery, and Red could go on and on about Tobias's tin cans. Even then, when Red finished, Tobias had a tin can filled with cereal for her. "I fixed up something for you," he said behind him, with his focus still on the monitor. "Ain't got no milk, though." Retta took a piece of cereal, bit into it, and almost cracked a tooth. "This is stale." "That's all I got. Take it or leave it, little girl." "Seriously, stop calling me little." "You're little to me," he said, still distracted as he attempted to hold a half-hearted conversation. Alpha came running down the hall, jumped up onto the table, and slid between their conversation, knocking the tin can over and sending cereal spewing across the floor. Tobias was unfazed by the chaos. He scratched Alpha behind her ear, and her sloppy, wet tongue hung out in ecstasy. "So," Tobias said, "you're looking for Celeste?" Retta wondered when he'd ask. The last few days he never mentioned her mom, and she was curious if their shared secret would stay that way. "Yeah." "Got a lead to find her?" "Well, kinda." She debated how much to tell him. "An unmarked box from her showed up at my door." "Unmarked?" There was no postage, no address, no name. Tobias perked up, curious about the package. "You sure it was even from her?" "Yeah, there was a note inside." "What'd it say?" "Find the junk dog," Retta thought, but hesitated to tell him. She still wanted to know more about Tobias's intentions. She just signed it. Barely sounds like a lead. But I have this. She walked around the table, in front of Tobias, and pulled out her journal and the baton her mother left her. He poked his head over the monitor and looked skeptic. "A stick and a book?" She flipped open her book and showed him her notes. "I took all of her stories and mapped them out. I have previous locations, contacts, sources, people we can interview, places." All right. I get it. At least you got something." "And the stick?" "It's a baton." "Sure, baton, whatever. What is it?" "I'm still figuring that out. It has these mysterious carvings I've never seen." "Sounds unhelpful." "But she sent it to me. It has to mean something." He considered it a moment, then returned to his monitor. "Keep it a secret." "Why's that?" "Space ain't a kind place. You gotta know who to trust." "Can I trust you?" He smiled a Weasley grin. "If you ain't figured that out yet, you got problems." A call came in from his monitor, and Alpha perked up. "I gotta take this," he said, and turned to Red. "Privately." Retta stepped away and left the room, but hung at the edge of the hallway. She was far enough so Tobias wouldn't notice, but close enough to eavesdrop. Tobias answered the video call, and a policewoman came on the screen. She was in her 30s, with smooth, tan skin, her hair pulled back into a tight black ponytail, and she wore a stern expression that meant business. "Tobias," she said, her words precise, efficient, and with dry sarcasm. "I hope you had fun on Earth." "Yeah, well, fun ain't exactly the way I'd describe it, Claire. Place is a shithole these days." "You requested it." "Yeah, it was just a favor for an old friend." He put one foot up on the edge of the table and leaned back in his chair as he spoke with her. "What's up?" "I want an update." Retta listened in, surprised to hear Tobias taking orders from an officer. He seemed too roguish, too independent to be subservient. She had to hold high rank over him. If she had his attention, Retta wanted hers. If Retta was going to be stuck in space with a fugitive, she'd need a STARS officer as an ace up her sleeve. The question was, why was a fugitive talking with STARS? For now, she stayed to the side and kept listening. "On Jimbo?" Tobias asked. "Yes." "You know, Jimbo the rat's been hiding for a while. Not easy to find, but I got some leads." "Go on." "Heard he's holed up in the sunken city. If anyone's got a lead on the Six, it's him. Guy always loved stalking us." Retta wondered. The Six. "All right," Claire said. "You have clearance." Tobias sneered at the idea of needing clearance. "Find Jimbo and get me that info." The call disconnected, and while Tobias lingered in his chair at the monitor, Retta jotted down notes in her journal. Who are the Six? Who's Claire? And what favor led Tobias to Earth? With his call finished, Tobias let out a deep sigh, took his foot off the table, and got up, brushing crumbs of stale cereal off his lap as he stood. Alpha hopped off the table, sniffed the crumbs, and found them as unappealing as eating cardboard. Tobias twisted his neck, snapped a satisfying crack, and let out a sigh of relief as he prepared to leave. "Hey, Lil Red," he called out, not knowing Retta was waiting right at the edge of the doorway. She hesitated a moment, pretending she was further than she was, then responded. "Yeah?" "Come over here," he said, and whistled to get Alpha's attention. Her furry, pointed white ears stood on end, and she sat with her chest high. Her focus was solely on Tobias, and her jaw closed with a serious demeanor. Retta casually came through and saw Tobias preparing to leave. "Are we going somewhere?" "I'm going somewhere," he said, with emphasis on the I, grabbed his jacket from the back of his chair, and put it on. "Be gone for a day or two. You, know where the food is." She didn't, because there was no food. Tobias realized it as soon as the words left his mouth, but without a better answer, he just kept moving. "Where are you going?" "Gotta talk with someone. Won't be long." "Can I come?" she said, and followed behind him. He kept moving, with her trailing behind. "Nah, better you stay here." "But what if someone's seen my mom?" "Doubt it," he said, opening the next set of doors to the hangar. "Celeste's been silent for a while." He stepped into the hangar, and Retta followed. The first night she broke in, she didn't appreciate what was inside. There were two smaller, single-pilot ships here, often called skiffs, docked in this garage-like hangar. Lining the walls to the ceiling were mismatching metal brown and silver paneling, stitched by rivets like an ugly quilt. At one end was a workbench with maintenance tools, pneumatic wrenches, laser welders, and piston hammers haphazardly thrown on a sheet metal workbench. It was slicked with grease and reflected oil-smudged rainbows from the light above. On it was one of the hoverbots. Tobias tried to fix it, but gave up, and the other bot Retta destroyed still laid on the floor, resting in a bed of glass from its shattered eye lens. Tobias walked to the nicer of the skiffs. It was black as onyx, with its body coming together at sharp lines, its wings angled backwards with a razor-edged V, and its sheen glinted like a knife. At its nose, the skiff had a wolf's face painted on it, the beast snarling with a prominent white fang on both sides. Tobias touched a button on the body of the ship, and the glass cockpit rose on a hinge, opening to let him in. He whistled, calling to Alpha, and then squatted, bracing his elbows against his knees. Before Retta asked why, Alpha darted past her. Her fur breezed against Retta's side. She ran up Tobias's back and hopped up onto the skiff's wing. She entered the cockpit and sat at a makeshift co-pilot's seat behind Tobias's. She was waiting, panting with excitement and a wide-brimmed smile. "Best you stay here, Lil Red," Tobias said, turning around. "Like a good ship hand." Retta did not appreciate his patronizing tone. "Don't want people seeing that stick, Baton," she shot back. "Stick, baton, whatever," he said. "Ain't worth stirring up the wrong people." He grabbed the wing and pulled himself up, removing himself from any more of Retta's attempts to persuade him. But she kept going. "How am I supposed to figure out what it's for, then?" "Ain't my problem," he said as he got into the cockpit, flicked some switches, and Alpha rested her head on his shoulder. The glass cockpit closed and sealed them inside. Yellow flashing lights blinked in the hangar, and Tobias's skiff, on a track, moved forward into a second section. Once there, two massive metal sliding doors came together, separating the ship from the innards of the junk dog. Retta watched as two huge pneumatic cogs twisted tight, shooting steam out and ensuring an absolutely impenetrable seal between the inner hangar and deadly openness of space. From the other side, she heard the thrusters of Tobias's white-fanged skiff warm up, then fire. The force of it rattled the sealed blast doors, and he shot off. Then, the junk dog was silent. There was only Retta, an empty ship, and her thoughts.